Hello and welcome back to my little fashion corner. I have arrived with some updates following Naomi Scandal and Chiara Ferragni and their legal journeys. As always, this is not legal advice. If there's any fashion advice, I think Chiara's stuff is boring, and it's all sourced from publicly available information and or my opinion. Starting with Naomi Scandal, formerly known as Naomi Campbell. Naomi and her charity banned because of mismanagement of funds, which hasn't been overturned at the time of filming this video, so I'm gonna enjoy saying that. She filed and was granted permission to appeal the decision. It doesn't change or amend the previous ruling, but it does give Campbell permission to challenge the ruling, and the case is ongoing. Just to remind ourselves, Fashion for Relief, the charity and its trustees were investigated for serious mismanagement, including misuse and missing funds, and Naomi Campbell received 5 years ban from being a trustee in the UK. The responsibility was shared among trustees, and she personally wasn't ordered to repay any specific amount despite being banned and deemed and found being a poor trustee. And I think they were extremely kind to her. Yes, she was sanctioned with a ban, but not really ordered to repay any money, as the findings focus on mismanagement rather than personal gain. The charity law is centered around accountability and oversight. Crime and Punishment is a different book. And I think she should have taken that decision, that ruling, and let it die out. It's not like she's devoting her time to philanthropy. The 5-year ban isn't such pain for her, I'm sure. She wants to be completely removed from the charity, so it seems. The charity is something that she has once been very happy to be a face of. That kind of shows how strongly aligned the values were. Fighting to be completely removed from it, in my opinion, of course, it is one thing being sorry to be affiliated with an organization or consortium that went sideways. But as far as I know, Naomi Scandal only acknowledged some shortcomings on her end, but denied any wrongdoings, claiming she was misled and impersonated through fake emails. Good old, yeah, things went wrong, but I wasn't personally responsible situation. In terms of timeline, she had her lawyers file grounds for appeal, which had to be done within 42 days after the Charity Commission ruling, and then wait for a decision. As mentioned, the permission to appeal was granted, and the tribunal issued a case management order with steps like submission of documents and deadlines to it. The court papers claim that one of the other trustees, Bianca Dubinska/Heimlich, misled Naomi, quote, perpetrated a systemic fraud against her by various means, including the use of a fake email address, end quote. Shout out to civil society. She posted on her social media that the discoveries have been so disturbing and shocking that the commission has agreed to review the case. My dude. They just applied the key aspects of beyond reasonable doubt. Pretty certain that a rich person claiming that they have been victimized in a charity fraud case is not the first time that they've heard this argument. But luckily, we have won another warrior for, quote, greater protection against crime identity theft, end quote. I feel so protected already. Naomi is seeking an order against Google in order to obtain information to the misuse of email address and disclosure of materials by former lawyers. All fairly reasonable stuff. It is going to be difficult because the ground issue here is that Naomi Scandal went online and said that she failed in her duties as a trustee, which is what the commission ruled. They said she didn't perform her duties and therefore contributed to things going wrong. Whether she gained any type of personal gain, monetary or otherwise, feels irrelevant. As I talked about it in my first video, being passive and not showing up to fully perform your duties as a charity trustee, which is the aforementioned accountability and oversight, can amount to mismanagement. And I wouldn't be surprised if she was granted the go-ahead only because she's famous and it was highly publicized. I understand the argument her lawyers are making, but hopefully the decision will be made upon reviewing evidence of how she performed her duties as a trustee and whether tribunal agrees with the ruling that the commission issued, i.e. she is not to act as a charity trustee for the remainder of 5 years of her ban. Since we're talking about paperwork, guess who's in the recent document releases of Jeffrey Epstein? In nearly 300 of them. Virginia Giuffre even reported that Epstein introduced her to Naomi Scandal. And there is a lot more on how he used her name and connection to her in order to boost his own image and get credibility. And it is my opinion that she benefited from that friendship, relationship, whatever. There seems to be a lot of documentation that they stayed in contact even after he was released from prison in 2009, despite Campbell's lawyer saying that his client was on Epstein's plane on a few occasions, but she never observed any inappropriate conduct of any kind. Things went wrong, but she wasn't personally responsible. Sounds familiar? I call that turning a blind eye for personal gain and comfort, and that is my opinion only. Update numero 2, Chiara Ferragni. Talked about it briefly before. I think it was beginning of failed Vlogmas. I felt sick for over a week and felt pretty terrible. Then it was just too late to resurrect the whole idea. So here we are, good 4 months later. December 2023, the Italian Competition Authority announced that Ferragni and companies under her control must pay a fine of €1,075,000 following a probe into unfair and misleading commercial practices, which was not great for her. Not for her, not for her companies under her brand Fenny's Retail, as they have been in deep financial trouble already. So, Pandorogate. The antitrust authority ruled that customers were misled into thinking that by purchasing the Chiara co-branded Pandoro, they were contributing to charity donations, which could have also been supported by the fact that normally the Pandoro costs around €4. However, this charity one, the co-branded one, cost over €9. A narrative could have been suggesting that maybe the profit is going to Regina Margherita Hospital Bone Cancer Research Department. However, only one payment of €50,000 was made by Balocco, which is the company making the Pandoro. And Chiara herself was paid around €1 million for this campaign by Balocco. No financial contribution to this cause was donated by Ferragni at the time of the ruling. Again, people buying these could have thought that surely she is also donating to this cause if she is asking us to participate in raising funds, and company has compensated her quite handsomely. It came with a lot of public hate towards influencers and definitely a massive damage to her own brand and also her company's. Minimum, she's got her own eponymous fashion brand. After that public outrage, that was followed by Milan Public Prosecutor's Office filing a case in criminal court with charges of aggravated fraud. Now, apparently, aggravated fraud is one of the most complex and delicate types of crime within the Italian legal framework. So aggravated fraud occurs when there is common fraud and insidious factors such as cause of substantial damage, violation of duty of loyalty, or crime against European Union, state, or public authorities cause. The penalty is based on circumstances, and in general, prosecutors seek imprisonment from 1 to 5 years and a fine that gets progressively worse with the severity of crime, naturally. The trial began in September 2005, and in January 2006, a judge decided that the aggravated status was not met by prosecutors. Ferragni argued that she was acting in good faith, that it was a miscommunication in marketing campaign, which was not her intent. She blamed the campaign on someone else and paid off the fines imposed by the Italian Competition Authority. The court suggested that prosecutors could proceed with just simple fraud. That would have required a formal victim complaint, which was at that time withdrawn. Most likely because Ferragni paid off her fines and penalties, settled with authorities, and donated around €3 million to the Regina Margherita Hospital in Turin. Not having the complaint meant that the legal scaffolding to argue fraud became impossible. Therefore, the case was closed after acquittal of Chiara Ferragni. It couldn't have been dismissed because there was a prosecutable charge. However, given that Milano prosecutors decided not to move forward with the simple fraud, the judge had to rule on the main charge, aggravated fraud. Chiara was acquitted which doesn't make her a good person either. Fun fact number 1, there is now Ferragni law, disegno di legge beneficenza, following Pandorogate, to regulate social media influencers with more than 1 million followers to combat scams and false advertising. And fun fact number 2, Fabio Maria D'Amato, Ferragni's long-term employee, he was held responsible for the communication and management failure in the legal dispute. Essentially, she blamed the marketing miscommunication on him. And also, it's been alleged that he's been a factor in the Ferragni's divorce, rumored that her husband could not stand him and it added to their issues. Mess. And there you have it. Do I like either of them any better? No. Do they care? Obviously not. Was it fun catching up? I certainly hope so. I appreciate you staying until the very end, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Don't do anything I wouldn't do.